Welcome to everyone. In the next few minutes, I would like to talk about my PhD investigation of executive function in infant cerebral palsy and about the progress of my researches. My name is Nóra Zimonyi. I'm a conductor and a PhD student. I work at András Pető Practicing Primary School. My vision is that I would like to live in the future. I would like to live in a world in which citizens with the CP are a productive and integral part of society. I'm a conductor, and therefore I would like to develop the skills of patients living with CP. I'm fully committed to a more targeted development program for people with CP that also improve their quality of life. I'm currently working on 2 projects in order to get to know the executive functions of people with cerebral palsy. You can see the first project title, which I will present below. Why is it important to examine the executive functions in this population? Children with cerebral palsy may have problems with the movement and walking, difficulty speaking, learning difficulties, and cognitive impairment. But we don't know much about their executive functions. However, these are important for the school and life success. Therefore, the aim is to examine the executive functions of people with cerebral palsy. First of all, let me tell a few words about the executive functions. These are a set of mental skills that include working memory, inhibitory control, and cognitive flexibility. Working memory, which allows information and thoughts to be kept in our minds and manipulated with them. Inhibitory control, which includes self-control, inhibition of unwanted behavior, and selective attention. Cognitive flexibility, which means that we can solve a problem in several ways. We are able to quickly switch between our mental sets and strategies. We use these skills every day to learn, work, and manage daily life. Trouble with the executive functions can make it hard to focus, file of directions, and hand emotion, among other things. You can see our clinical question above, and we have 2 hypotheses. We compared the executive function test results between infant cerebral palsy and typically developing population. We use this search key, and the selection is done. Finally, 15 articles have been selected. You can see the overall results of the executive functions. The articles use different tests, and these tests move on different scales. Therefore, we didn't use raw mean difference, but we use standardized mean difference. The results are on one side, and if we look at the heterogeneity, we see that it's a bit heterogeneous. The results shows that CP's people have a disadvantage of executive functions compared to their typically developing peers. We get significant results, and if we read the articles, we can see that the differences are not just statistically, but clinically as well. We also view the results on the components. Now we can see the results of one of the executive functions components, namely working memory. Similarly to the overall functions, the results are on the left side, but the results of the articles are more homogeneous. If you look at the standardized mean difference, it shows us that the CP populations has a disadvantage in these components, which is significant. If you look at the results of the inhibitory control, they are very similar to the ones as the working memory. The results are also on the left side, and the results of the articles are heterogeneous. The standardized mean difference is also significant. which means the CP populations also had a disadvantage in this component. Regarding cognitive flexibility, the results are a little bit different because the results of the articles on the left side, but the articles are homogeneous. But we see that the disadvantage of the CP population also on these components. About the strengths and limitations, because we collected enough articles, we were also able to examine the components of the executive functions. There are more articles about children than adults, so we plan to do subgroup analysis. And also limitations, the different tests measured the same expected, so we performed standardization. As we assumed, cerebral palsy people had disadvantage in the performance of their executive functions compared to their typically developing peers. So it is very important that we build into this their development program. It would be useful to do researches in the future to examine the effectiveness of development programs. I'm writing the article. We will get soon all final results with the subgroup analysis, and the planned submission date is July. The second project would be to analyze and publish the results of a research. This research was made some years before. It's a descriptive cross-sectional study about the executive functions in two groups, children with CP and the typically developing children. We have the necessary approvals. On the CP group, the inclusion criteria was the diagnosis of cerebral palsy with ICD code. Exclusion criteria was if the child had been diagnosed with any psychological disorder and epilepsy. The control group matched to the CP sample by age and gender. They were typically developing children, while exclusion criteria was similar than in the cerebral palsy group. We used this test, you can see above. We couldn't take every test with everyone. The highlighted numbers show the final number of participants. For example, we didn't take the Stroop test with children who couldn't read well, so we had 54 participants. There were children who started taking the test but dropped out because we found some problem during the process. The two figures show that age and gender matching were fine in the two groups. We have preliminary results, although these have yet to be interpreted. We will soon get the final results for this project as well, and after when I finalize the first article, I can start writing the second article. What are the strengths and limitations of this research? The sample size is larger, about twice as much than previous researches, even if we couldn't take all tests with everyone. This study contains 7 tests and also most articles used 3-4 tests. Furthermore, this is the first study that comprehensively examines the cerebral palsy population. It's it's a non-multisense study because special equipment was needed to measure the performance. And the planned submissions dates are July and September. I would like to close my presentation with this code below because it's completely in line with conductive education, my vocation, and every child means every child, including kids with cerebral palsy. Thank you for your kind attention. You're welcome to ask any question or comments.
Congratulations for your presentation. My question is regarding to your second project. Is there any targeted therapy to develop the executive function skills in this population?
Sorry, again?
Is there any targeted therapy?
Yeah, yes. Thank you for the question. When I read the literature, I found some targeted development program for the executive functions. For example, the mindfulness or targeted computerized task training. Yes, but we have to see which is the better for the CP populations. It is the next step, maybe other research in the future.
You mentioned that you involved several CP patients in your second project. I was wondering about the gross motor function scale and the CP patients. Did you have the chance, or could you involve the patients from all of the 5 severity groups, or you have to exclude some of the severity levels because of unable to complete the task?
Thank you for the question. We involved all levels. So when we started the research, I thought that it's important to take the test for the all gross motor function classification systems levels children, and we did it.
Can you tell anything about the predisposing factors that can affect these different aspects of executive function? Because I think on the last plot you had a bigger study where there was no difference between the two. Not working memory, maybe before, I think it was about the flexibility, I think.
Yes.
Yes, so here on the last one, there was no difference. So could you do a subgroup analysis or anything about the search in the predisposing factors?
Yes, we planned a lot of subgroup analysis, of course. For example, age and gender and the gross motor function classification systems and manual ability classifications and the matching, and we have to interpret these results.